Well, everyone, it just dropped the player choice vote for the Game Awards. I think we go through all of these. We vote on what we think. Basically, how this works is they have a big list of the biggest games of the year, and they want you to vote on which ones should pass forward. After 3 rounds, they will announce the winner of player choice, whoever got the most votes and made it through every round. And bada bing, bada boom, that's how they select it. I am excited for this because I really do expect there's going to be a pretty big gap between player choice and the official winner. Like, I would not be surprised if Game of the Year goes to like maybe Shadow of the Erdtree or Astro Bot or something like that. I think the odds of Black Myth getting it are very low. I think the odds of Metaphor getting it, despite that being my Game of the Year, I think at this point, I think the odds of that winning it are very, very low. Same with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That might get it, but I think if they went to all this trouble to make an exception and change the rules so Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree could get nominated, I think there's a reason, and this stands a really good chance of getting the W, that or Astro Bot. That would be my guess. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love for it to go to one of these others, but that's my guess. My primary reason for that is just simply because Game of the Year, in my view, is based on a game. A DLC for a game is not a game. You could say it's big enough to be its own game. Cool, but it's not. It's a DLC for another game. Another game, by the way, that you have to play like 70, 75% probably. Moog is pretty far in. You have to beat him and then go to the DLC. So it's pretty deep for you to actually get to the DLC. And so in my view, it just doesn't make sense for Game of the Year. For other awards, best music, best action, sure, whatever. But it's literally not a game. It is an expansion for a game. So for me, it just doesn't click. But having said that, still an amazing, amazing package. There should be somebody's going to clip that now because I said package. Damn it. It's an amazing, girthy, juicy package. There, a better clip for you. It's great. I love Shadow of the Erdtree. I just don't think it should qualify, in my humble opinion. That being said, of these other ones, I've played a good chunk of these. And to give you the rundown, Astro Bot, fantastic. It's more Astro Bot, though. I love it. It's really, really good. But it's more Astro Bot. You know, it doesn't wow me as much as I thought it would. Like, it's fun. It's a good time, but it's just not, it's not that home run hitter. You know, it doesn't get me really excited the way that Game of the Year typically does. Balatro, fantastic. I'm addicted. It's all I can think about. Please send help, someone. It's very, very good. But I think, you know, the description of Game of the Year is really telling. And I follow this guideline typically as well. Recognizing a game that delivers the absolute best experience across all creative and technical fields. And this is where I think, you know, if we're holding Shadow of the Erdtree to the game part of the definition of Game of the Year, I think we also have to hold Balatro to like this part, which is all creative and technical fields. Balatro is an amazing game, very addictive. It's amazingly pro-consumer, and it could have been very, very toxic very easily. They could have easily done like pay $1 to keep going in this run and try again. They could have very easily done that and made millions and millions and millions and millions more dollars, but they didn't. And I don't know if this is true, but I saw a post where somebody was saying that one of the developers tested the game mechanics with their family members, like their aunts and uncles, brothers, sisters, mom, dad. They found it to be so addictive that they were worried it could be severely damaging to people if they monetize this because it's so addicting. And it really is. It's very, very good. But I don't think this excels in all of those creative and technical fields the way some of these other games do. It just doesn't have a narrative, so it literally does not excel in that category. It just doesn't have a narrative, so there's that. Gameplay-wise, gameplay design, yeah, it's very, very well done. It's built on the premise and mechanics of poker. It works very, very well. It's also a very simple game, visually speaking, so it doesn't excel in the same way that artistic styling and art direction and, you know, technical art direction also works, where like technical artists have to find ways to make things look beautiful in action at 60 frames a second with all this crazy computation going on for AI and for the animations playing out, like something like Black Myth, which has to do all of that very, very well and also have really good gameplay. So to me, Balatro is an amazing game. Best mobile game of the year as far as I'm concerned. Even I'd dare to say maybe best indie game, because I think it technically counts as an indie game. But game of the year, I don't really put it there. Black Myth, like really, really fantastic boss fights. Great presentation. I was disappointed with how it ran, especially on console at launch, but really solid boss fights. My problem is with the connective tissue, what you do between those boss fights. I felt like that was really lacking, because you go from the high of the boss fight and then it just starts to scoop on the bottom when you're going between boss fights, which for me is frustrating, because it's really jarring to go from that really amazing stuff to the kind of lackluster connective bits. But very, very well done. And as a breakout title, first like single player big game from Game Science. They've typically done like mobile games and MMO style stuff. They've done very, very well here, and it definitely deserves a nomination. So I'd give it one of my votes, I think, for sure. Call of Duty Black Ops 6, really well done, a really good time. I will consider that, but something bugs me about nominating a Call of Duty game. I don't know why. Dragon Age Veilguard, I was really hoping this would be the smash hit, BioWare's back kind of game. It just wasn't. It's not an RPG. It is a friendship simulator and group therapy simulator. And even then, like, it's not particularly good at that, because most of the people that you're in the game with, most of your companions, are really frustrating. And they range from kind of shallow to downright unlikable, but there's no way to deal with that. Like, you can't kick somebody out of your group or out of the party because you find them annoying or because you don't like them. You just have to keep going through with them, and your character Rook is always going to talk to them like they're best friends. It's really frustrating. This is a game that I really think, you know, in terms of gameplay, not that amazingly solid. I think good enough for an RPG, but that's good enough given a good narrative and good writing, and I just don't think they were there. I think, you know, this is a game that was really harmed by the quality of the writing, and that's really, really too bad. Dragon Ball, I know it's Joe Raptor's favorite game. I have not played it, so I'm not too familiar. Dragon's Dogma 2, very polarizing. I know a lot of people found it overly frustrating. A lot of people didn't like how you had to basically run between every area on the map, and I think that is something which is fair. The idea, though, was they wanted you to have dynamic encounters as you went through the game, as you went through. And I think that, you know, is something you either like or you don't. I personally really enjoyed Dragon's Dogma 2. Had plenty of problems. It also didn't run very well at launch, but I really enjoyed what I got out of it, and I think it was one of the best games I played this year. Shadow of the Air Tree, if I'm not nominated for Game of the Year, I'd be okay giving it a player's voice, player's choice, whatever vote. I just think for the definitive crown of Game of the Year, the official title, I don't think it should qualify. But as like package that I enjoyed, I could see giving it a nod. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. What else is there to say that hasn't already been said? It's really good. It's really solid. It's really, really good. Only potential like hiccups are maybe pacing. I think it's perhaps held back by how it's broken up, because it is part 2 of 3 of a remake of a game from 20, 30 years ago. And that is just going to be like a couple of speed bumps for people to get into it. It's perhaps the best game this year that most casual gamers didn't touch. Most people I know that are like more casual gamers, they play the big AAA stuff, but they're not like playing the more niche stuff. They've heard about it, but they're like, I don't know, I'll probably wait till the third part comes out and play it all in one go, instead of just doing it broken up into 2 releases and wait a few years for the third part, which I can't really blame them. I can't really blame them if they want to wait and do it all at the same time. But if you have played it, you know it's very, very good. Final Fantasy 14. I've tried it with my buddy Corey. He's really, really into it. I've never gotten into it, but I can certainly understand that a lot of people love Final Fantasy 14. Fortnite. It's still ridiculous how successful this game is. It's massive. It's huge. I haven't tried the new season 6, I think it is, update, but apparently that redoes a ton of stuff like movement. They go back to hit scan weapons. They do just a ton of stuff. So not sure how that is, but of course it's one of the biggest games of the year. Kind of like Call of Duty though. It feels weird to give it one of these nods, but it is very impressive what they've been able to do. Genshin Impact, not particularly familiar, but Hoyoverse, I know they print money with it, so it's very big and very successful. Helldivers 2, I just played this last night actually, with the updates with some buddies, and just as fun as ever. It's actually, I think, better now than it's probably ever been because they went back, fixed a bunch of stuff, rebalanced stuff, and they've added new things like mechs and all sorts of stuff. It's very, very good. I really do enjoy Helldivers. Is it a game I'll be playing for years and years and put thousands and thousands of hours into it? Probably not, but it's definitely one of those live service games that I'll pop back into every once in a while and eat it up. Kind of like Sea of Thieves. Like, I'm not actively playing Sea of Thieves, but if at any time you guys were like, hey, you want to play Sea of Thieves? I'm like, I'm in. Let's go. You know, it's one of those games for me. I'm not going to no life it, but it always is going to hit the spot. Like a pina colada. I would love to drink it nonstop every day of my life, every moment of my life, but that's not practical. So instead, if you offer me a pina colada, I'll down it like my life depends on it. But and I'll really enjoy it. I'll appreciate it. Did I mean Skull and Bones? Yeah. Oh, not Sea of Thieves. Skull and Bones, of course. Yeah. Where is that on this list? That's a good question. But yeah. Anyway, this great. Helldivers 2. Eat it up. Love it. League of Legends. This reminds me of that clip from Elon where somebody asked him, like, Elon, do you play League of Legends? Are you into that? And he said, if I played League of Legends and got into it, it would actually affect our ability to go to Mars. And it would affect the space program, which is probably accurate. I don't know much about it. I've tried to get into League of Legends a few times. To me, it's just too toxic and I've never really been able to get into it. I don't care enough to like get really good at it. So I just have never gotten there. Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I didn't play it. Didn't seem particularly compelling to me, but I'm sure lots of people enjoyed it. Like a Dragon. It is pure, unadulterated, ridiculous fun. Yakuza is one of those franchises that people are hesitant to get into and try because it does seem really wacky and crazy. And it is. But it's just outrageous. Like, it's just crazy. And there's not much more to say about it than that. It's just ridiculous, outrageous, fun, and a solid game as far as that's concerned. If you're hoping for like the big stereotypical Western open world RPG, it doesn't play like that at all. But if you're open to something a little bit different, a little bit wacky, you should definitely try it. It's very, very good. Metaphor, this is leading the way for my game of the year. Unless Indiana Jones blows us all away and does something I don't think anybody expects, I think that it's going to take it for me. It's just phenomenal. Like, the writing is really, really well done. The art direction's really good. Gameplay wise, it's set up very, very intelligently. It builds on everything they did with Persona, and then it adds even more to that. It refines a bunch of stuff. It's just done really, really, really well. It's not for everybody. I totally understand that. It's a massive game, and it's a game running on the same engine they used for Persona 5, which, no joke, released on the PlayStation 3 back in, I think, 2015 is when that version dropped. Or maybe 2014, the PS3 version dropped, then 2015, Persona 5 dropped. Something like that. And it kind of plays in structure like a PS3 game. Very tight levels, very small. It's graphically, in terms of the tech behind it, not a powerhouse at all. But the art direction, the writing, the music, the combat, everything else is so phenomenal that it becomes an afterthought. It's very, very good. Not for everybody, but certainly for me. Mobile Legends Bang Bang. I don't know. I have no idea what that is. We looked at it on stream. We Googled it because I thought it was a made up game, but no, it's real. No Man's Sky, still pumping tons of stuff out. It's too hard for me to get into, but I've been impressed by the updates they've sent out for it. I know a lot of people still play it and eat it up. It certainly deserves some credit, but for me personally, it's not a game I put much time into. Pal World, this one, I think I will give a nod and a vote just because it was one of the most crazy, outrageous surprise hits of the year. And this is maybe like one of the bigger takeaways from this year. I feel like, and correct me, like, tell me if you think you're on the same page, but I feel like this year there has not been the smash blockbuster clear front runner for Game of the Year. Like, you know, last year everybody was kind of like, yeah, it's going to be Tears of the Kingdom. And then maybe another game or two, but it's going to be Tears of the Kingdom. And we might also get, like, some people were saying Star Wars, some people were saying Starfield. Some people, you know, were expecting Baldur's Gate to pop off, but I don't think anybody expected it to pop off as much as it did. But going into the Game Awards, everybody knew it was going to be Tears of the Kingdom and Baldur's Gate. And it was like, those are the real candidates. Everybody else is just kind of like an honorable mention, but those are the two clear front runners. This year, it doesn't feel like there's been a game on that level. I know for some people there have been. Metaphor is very, very good to me, but I can acknowledge that this is not the same as like a Baldur's Gate level of universal acclaim and player engagement. It's niche. The people who play it love it, but it's not for everybody. It's for a very niche group of players. But despite that, despite there not being the clear smash hit blockbuster behemoths that we typically get, there have been some wild surprises. Pal World was, I believe, the first one in January. Blew up, massive player numbers. Everybody was playing it. I was playing this with friends in co-op. We started servers together. We had a great time. My wife put dozens and dozens and dozens of hours into it. She has like a freaking castle built in it. It's outrageous. The other one, of course, Helldivers. Nobody saw this coming and expected it to blow up as much as it did, but it was just a really solid game that was really fun. And it seems to have been carried a lot by the PC side of the community, which was really cool to see because that was, I believe, the first time PlayStation really tried day and date live service on PC, and it worked. It worked for him. It really did. Balatro also, nobody expected that to blow up. Nobody saw that coming, but that blew up. Black Myth Wukong, I think people knew it was getting millions of views on trailers years ahead of time. So that was also expected to be, you know, big, but it actually delivered for a lot of people and also blew up and became massive. So it's just been the year of the surprises. Maybe not the year of the like smash hit blockbusters, but certainly the year of the surprises, I would say. So Pal World, I'll give it that nod as well. As we're getting lower, we're running out of votes, so I've only got 2 left, so I've got to be a little more precise. We have Persona 3 Reload, which, I mean, it's Persona 3. You know, enough said. I didn't put much time into this one. Metaphor has consumed all of my Persona adjacent and Atlas energy. Hellblade 2, no shock to you guys who follow me and my channels. This was one of the most disappointing games of the year for me. It was shockingly short. When I ended it, I literally thought I had accidentally triggered a false ending. Like, you know, at the beginning of Far Cry 4, where the bad guy gets up and he walks out and he says, "Wait here just a moment," and he leaves. If you sit at that table for like 10, 15 minutes and then you come back, well, the guy will come back. The credits will roll and he's like, "Thank you for waiting anyway." And then the conversation goes on and then the credits roll and it's a secret ending that just is over. It's in Far Cry 6 as well. Yeah, like it's one of those secret endings you can accidentally trigger and the credits roll way before they were supposed to for everybody else. That's what I thought happened with Hellblade 2. It ended out of nowhere. The credits start rolling. And I remember like setting the controller down. I was like, what? And I stopped the recording on my streaming PC where I record stuff. And I pulled up the recorded footage and I watched it back through. And I was like, did I make a choice that I forgot about? Was there like a dialogue option that skipped the ending or skipped half of the game? I was like, what is happening? Nope. That's just the ending. Ridiculously short. Very, very tight in scope. Far fewer puzzles, far fewer combat encounters, just far less everything. In literally almost every single category, in my opinion, it is worse than the first game by a significant margin. The first game had one of the most memorable and impactful endings of any game I've probably ever played. It was phenomenal. The second game's ending was so atrocious, I thought I had accidentally skipped it. Like, it was so bad. So this one, of course, I'm not going to be giving a nomination because I found it horribly disappointing. Horribly disappointing. And I think defending it is laughable. It's pretty clear that it was something they pumped out. They put the trailer out to hype up the Series X. They'd done basically no work on the game. They had the live service game scheduled for 2020, and then they supported it till 2021 because people forget Ninja Theory did a live service game that went belly up. And so after they finished the live service game, then they actually started working on Hellblade 2. And so they worked on it for like 2.5, 3 years before they actually released it. And it feels like it. I mean, it feels like a 3-year game for 80 people. And it's just not there, unfortunately. Really, really disappointing. And I think pretending otherwise doesn't help Ninja Theory. I think you got to hold their feet to the fire. Silent Hill 2 remake also popped off, coming from Konami. I was very skeptical of Konami after everything they've done for the last like 5 to 10 years. Seeing them come out and actually do a really good job with this was a very pleasant surprise, and I think instills a lot more confidence for some of the other Silent Hill stuff that they're working on. So it's good to see them back in the fold, because for a while, I believe it was like 2019 or 2020, one of their executives was like, yeah, we're just not that interested in the console space because our slot machines make so much money. Because people forget, Konami, like, they make a ton of money off of like pachinko machines and slot machines and stuff in Japan. The console side of their business has been, console game side of their business has historically been a much smaller chunk of it. But now they're actually getting back into it, and it seems like they're doing a good job. Sonic X Shadows Generations, I've not played. I'm not particularly into Sonic. Stellar Blade, despite me thinking it was just going to be game for Booba, it actually is a really, really solid game, which is perhaps another surprise this year. It's one of those games that you look at it and you expect it to be just one of those games that's just about cleavage and stuff, but it actually is a really solid, very, very competently made game that's very, very good. Wuthering Waves, I'm not familiar with that one. Valorant, it's Valorant. Warframe, it's also Warframe. These are massive games with big communities. Endless Zone Zero also popped off this year. Another big game that is from Hoyoverse that also has found a huge audience. But for me, I think my two big that I appreciated the most, Stellar Blade is good, but I think of the games, I think Space Marine 2 definitely actually managed to live up to expectations and do a really good job. So I think that's an easy one. For me, it basically comes down to Silent Hill 2 or Stellar Blade. And I think I'm going to give it to Stellar Blade because it is an original title, whereas this is a remake. I think that's going to be my tiebreaker. But then again, I did also... Did I give it... No, I didn't. Okay. I think that's my list. Hater! Yeah. Booba always wins. So, final selections. My 10 out of all of these. Black Myth. Dragon's Dogma 2. Shadow of the Air Tree, just because it was really good. If this made it to round 2, I might not vote for it again, but it was definitely up there in terms of girthy packages, as I described it earlier, that I enjoyed the most this year. Wouldn't nominate for Game of the Year, but for Player's Voice, Player's Choice, whatever, I think that's fair. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, it's fantastic. Helldivers 2, really solid even today. Like a Dragon, it's wacky, outrageous fun. Metaphor, probably the best one that I have played this year. Very good. Palworld, surprise hit. And the fact that it makes Nintendo so angry also makes me love it all the more. Stellar Blade for Booba and for being a really good, solid action game as well. And Space Marine 2 for actually living up to expectations. Now, obviously, I'm perhaps a little bit biased when it comes to Warhammer, so take that with whatever grain of salt you need to. But I think that it will do it. That's my votes, and I will submit. Vote submitted. Round 2 opens Thursday, December 5th. Here we go. So Nintendo blacklisted. Yeah, exactly. So make sure you guys go through and vote. Maybe if you vote on this, take like a little screenshot or send it to me over on X. Just tag me in the post. I would be really interested in seeing that. They do have a button for sharing your votes. So I guess you could do that and let me know. But yeah, let me know what you guys picked. I'm interested. took my thing.